What is that about?
I've got no idea.
Is it done it? You got to take that off first. Uh-oh.
You guys hearing us? You know this is live, right? This is live. This is Ezekiel
and Sarah. I hope your ears are okay right now. We thank God. Amen. Yes.
We praise him. We praise him. We praise him. We praise him.
Ooh, that was sharp.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it just wasn't like trying to stop, right? It's like, anyway. How are you guys? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We do have another good show, hopefully, by the grace of God,
you know what, look,
for you today.
Let's pull it back. Let's pull it back. The intro just played, yeah?
Oh, is it?
This is Ezekiel.
And Sarah.
And we're here today for another episode of Marriage Matters Live.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah,
goodness me. This is live. Live show, live stream, live. It's on and popping. As Sarah said, we got another cool cut, another popper for you today. So we're going to cut straight into the juice. How you doing today, though?
I'm good. Feeling rested. Yeah, feeling rested.
You're looking kind of rested still.
It was a nice weekend. Yeah, I've had a good weekend.
Enjoyed it?
Yeah, I've enjoyed this weekend.
Good stuff. So if you saw the thumbnail, if you saw the title, you know what's going down here today, and I think it's an important conversation, definitely an important conversation for us to have.
Yeah.
Different layers, different stages of your relationship. This is something that comes up. You know, you marry someone or you're courting, and then you go through the experience and you realize, hold on, this person has got some traits or some characteristics that I didn't quite, pick up.
Well, pay too much attention to, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's different. I think and that's the thing. It's different once you're married, isn't it? Because it's like, okay,
here we are.
We gotta try and work on this, isn't it? So yeah, it's kind of different from when two people are courting and there's different, type of attitudes being thrown here and there. You kind of think, oh, don't worry, we'll sort that out, kind of thing. And then when you get married, it becomes highlighted that actually this could be a problem. Yeah,
like a big issue with that. Listen, so for those of you who know yourselves, this video is really for you. Those ones of you who know you don't listen. It's like, look, I don't listen. I don't listen. And more time we're pointing the finger, it's like, no, you don't listen to me. Yeah. You don't listen to me. That's the kind of way it goes. Like, you don't listen to me. You don't listen to me. But really today, I'm talking to those of you who know yourself. And know that you don't listen.
And it's about being honest as well. I think, like, in order to combat this particular issue in a marriage, it's about two people being honest, and the person who actually doesn't listen, or if they both don't listen, it's all about being honest, as opposed to being, like you just said, making yourself the victim of, no, you don't listen to me.
I say 1,000%. I agree with you 1,000%. I think we agree that level of honesty is what's required
100%.
At all stages of the relationship to get you from that trouble place to that place of peace. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's real talk. That's real talk. Oh, sorry. I'm checking my notes,
And what?
I just left the show for a minute there. Sorry, guys.
Something?
All right, cool. So, where does it start from? Where does this come from? So, contentious. You've got a contentious spouse. You've got a spouse that doesn't listen, or you are that person that doesn't listen. Let's talk about the roots of those kind of things. And if you've been with us for any length of time, you kind of know we've touched on some of these things already. But I think it bears repeating today, because some of these things, you're dealing with this person, you're like, you don't listen to me, you just never listen to me. And if we focus solely on the fruit of the situation, solely of what we're being faced with, I don't know that we're ever really going to understand the full gravity of the situation and then ever be able to really progress to getting to a place where you're on the way to a solution. So it's like somebody they're complaining about an injury, basically they've hurt themselves, but it was like, some car crash they had way back when that was the instigator of this thing. And if we don't understand fully how that ailment, that situation, came about, we can't really attend to it accordingly. And it's just like, they've got pain in their foot, they've got pain in their foot. But how did that happen? What degree, to what degree is that pain? What was the impact, etc., etc. So those things are all important. Yeah, we both got kind of notes today, guys. So we're trying to go digital for you, for all y'all. So I think one of the core things that we focused on, and we've spoken about this as I said in some of the past streams, is parental influence. I think when we consider someone who's kind of a bit contentious, one of the words that we were looking at before when we were talking about this earlier on, some people have different layers of, being spoiled. I don't like that. I don't like it. But, parents spoil children. Sarah was talking about this before. And as that individual grows into, a full-fledged adult and they're out in the world, some of those traits, if they've not been ironed out, follow them out. So parental influence has a massive, massive role to play in terms of your spouse or yourself for the fact of the matter. So I think that's key. And I think when we're looking at this situation, it really would help us. It would really kind of behoove us to really look at the roots and really evaluate that. That trait that you see in your spouse or yourself, can you see that trait in your parents? Is it a trait you see in their parents or in-laws? Can you see where it comes from in their siblings?
That's right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and I think that's an important kind of observation to make because it's a tell that this isn't just a us situation. It's a situation that's a lot deeper than that. We spoke about kind of relationships coming together before, and that derivative attitude, culture, that derivative kind of logic that falls down parent to parent to child to child to child, and parent to child, parent to child, parent to child, and that then is the sum total of what you're dealing with in your marriage, in your relationship. So we've spoken about that in the past. And question to you guys: so, do you see or have you seen traits, negative traits that you've identified about yourself that came from your parents, or in your spouse, would-be spouse, that came from your parents? And which traits, in terms of not listening, would you say are okay? Acceptable? So two people are courting and they realize that one person likes to talk a lot about themselves as opposed to listening to the other person, kind of thing. They like the sound of their own voice, so to speak. So is that okay? If you're courting, you're in that situation, would you think that's okay? If you've got a sister or a younger sister or a younger brother, someone who kind of would come to you for counsel, would you say to them, that's cool, just people are different, it's okay? Do you know what I'm saying? What's your take on that? I mean,
the funniest thing is, in that situation, the person who might not be as vocal, could take it as, this is how this person probably expresses they like me. This is, how they express that they can trust me. They talk a lot about themselves. They're telling me everything. So in that instance, it could be taken, it might be seen more on a positive light. Obviously, depending on how the conversation flows, obviously. Yeah. But if the person is kind of like just pouring out, the other person might be like, oh, this person trusts me in a sense. Whereas it might not actually be that. It might just be that the person
can't close their mouth.
Exactly.
Doesn't know how to stop talking. Yeah.
And again, obviously, listening is a skill.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a skill.
Absolutely.
Some people find it hard to listen.
Absolutely. Some people cannot listen.
Yeah. Some people, they will talk, and once you start talking to them, their mind will now take them somewhere else. It means they're not listening, kind of thing. So not everyone has that listening skill. Yeah. And I think, definitely that's something in relationships that do have to be discussed, looked into, trained as well. Developed. Just by having conversations and stuff like that. So, for me, that's definitely something that I think can be an issue when someone finds it difficult to listen. And they might not know, they might not think it's a problem because they've gone through life, they've sailed through life without it being pointed out, without it disrupting, their daily dealings kind of thing. Until they get married, and it's kind of like, you don't listen, you're not listening, you don't listen, you're not, and they're thinking, what do you mean? Of course I listen, I am listening to you, kind of thing. So it's not always something that people notice straight away until they actually start to live life maybe with someone constant for that person to actually pick it up and say, look, I think there's a bit of a problem here, kind of thing. So that's definitely what I think about on that. Regarding parental upbringing and this particular, this particular subject today, it's one of those things sometimes where, as parents, you want to love on your children. Yeah. You want to make sure that they're okay. You want to give them the best, in a sense, as we say. However, it's important for us to understand that if we spoil, we're using the word spoil.
Listen,
what's another word?
Is the appropriate?
Yeah, that's the word that people that's like the known terminology, isn't it, for it? But
because that's what they're doing.
But if we spoil children when they're children, a lot of parents don't think of the ripple effect.
Yeah.
When that child actually becomes teenage, into, in their mid-20s, then into their 30s. Parents aren't even always thinking about that process at the moment. They're just thinking, oh yeah, you can have what you want. Okay, it's okay, babe. They're constantly giving in to the child.
Yeah.
But it's only when the child now begins to encounter other environments that it has now, that it's highlighted that it's a problem.
Yeah.
But by then, it's not that it's too late, but the deed's already been done, in a sense. And now
it's too late.
Now,
obviously,
obviously,
you can. I'm not saying you can't reprogram. Of course, you can kind of reprogram, re-educate. You can retrain. Yet that harvest from the seed sown,
that's right, has already. That's right.
Sprouted.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's key. You said a lot of good stuff there. I just feel as though when we're talking about evaluating the person that we're with, the person someone's in a marriage, they identify these traits, these problems. I think when it comes down to evaluating, we need to really prioritize what's super important and what's not. And I feel, as you said earlier on, communication, and we harp on about this all the time, is massively paramount. I think it's a massive issue if you find yourself in a relationship with somebody and they don't listen to you. And a question for you guys, really, it's like twofold really, but thinking about your spouse, those of you who are married, how long did it take before you got to a place? I know some people say they still don't listen to me. How long did it take for you to get to a place where you felt as though your spouse took genuine interest after marriage, after the honeymooning period, kind of settling in? How long did it take before your spouse was kind of like a real engaged listener to you in conversation? I think that's really paramount. I think it's a tell for us how long it has taken us as a relationship to kind of adjust and to really kind of integrate our lives, and that kind of psychological aspect of communication and relating to each other. I think that's key. So I think prioritizing those things is key. First, what's important to you, what's not important to you, and you need to establish those things at the gate. Again, this is super important for those of you who are courting, single, considering marriage in the future. These things are massively important for you to prioritize now. You don't want to get to the point where you're kind of on a date or 10 dates in. I don't condone dating. You're kind of down the road, a couple months in, feeling as though it's time to take things serious, and then you start to, falter because what should have been a priority to you as you kind of connected initially wasn't. So I think that's key. And the structure, we talk about worldview all the time. Your worldview and structure is super important. What are you living for? What are you living by? So another thing that really kind of contributes to this kind of stuff is past relationships. So past relationships are a major factor, and kind of segueing away from our parental relationships, those are key. And indeed, that's a relationship. But we're talking about relationships with siblings. People don't understand how deeply impactful relationships with their siblings are in relationships down the road. Brothers with sisters, sisters with brothers, even kind of, same gender relationships. And then as we progress from that, relationships with your friends, relationships with the opposite sex when you were in school, when you were in college, growing up, kind of thing, university, those kind of things there. So I think all of those things are really key. And there's two ways to kind of look at this. So we were talking earlier on about these kind of relationships. And I think one thing to consider is too much exposure to the wrong stuff. Too much exposure to wrong relationships. So you're in university and you're kind of just going all out. Your uni days, you're going all out. And I think that kind of exposure is absolutely negative, because as much as we think, it's my time of freedom, it's time for me to kind of get out and, get to know the world. What that can actually do is sow seeds that are detrimental to your relationship down the road. And then, as Sarah was talking about, it takes a good degree of deconstruction and reconstruction in your kind of perception of relationship, your relational perception. I think that's super important. So we really need to consider the exposure that we have. So then there's like too much exposure to negative, and then there's kind of exposure to right relationships. And this doesn't always have to be about romantic relationships early on. You dated this person, you dated that person. Sometimes it's really about ensuring, and this is good for parents who have children who are coming up, and this is good for us who are singles. It's really good to form strong, healthy friendships. If you've got a friendship with someone opposite sex, and they have a high regard for you as a friend, they set respectful boundaries for you, then I think those kind of things, like those kind of things really feed into the relationship coming down the road. You know, your partner, your husband, wife is your special friend, and it's like they are a type of friend, but to a next level. Do you understand? So I think friendship is massively important as well in terms of shaping that I don't listen to you attitude. If you've got a lot of negative friends, a lot of bad friends, a lot of friends that talk kind of then obviously that kind of inconsiderate character can contribute to that kind of a mindset in marriage later on down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And as well, influence is important as well in this particular area, because a lot of people feel like me talking, saying how I feel, saying what's on my mind, that's my liberation, that's my freedom, that's my right, kind of thing. And that can be played into marriages, and it can become a problem as well, especially when you have like the whole feminist movement kind of thing. I should be able to say what I want. Fair enough, you're my husband, but I should be able to say what I want. I am my own woman.
Yeah, you are, babe.
I am my own woman.
You're my woman.
Hallelujah. And it's just kind of like, I'm not going to be bullied attitude kind of thing sometimes can come in with this particular situation, where people feel like if they speak, everything they say should be heard, should be taken, should be taken on board kind of thing. Because if it's not, then they can be made to feel by society that they're not in the right position, or they're not equal to the spouse, or they're not being held at the same esteem, or they're not as important, kind of thing. So again, I definitely feel like it's an influential mindset around this whole situation as well. And obviously, as we get into talking about how to overcome and solve the issues, I think that's where we'll probably be able to go in a little bit deeper without going too far on that right now.
I think that's key. Like, you spoke about mindset earlier on massively, and I think that's super powerful, because being able to have the right kind of mindset, and again, these things are developed in your kind of place of education, developed at home with your parents, developed from your relationships. And I think if we don't have that kind of mentality where we are geared towards development, and you said we'll talk about that later, then I think there is a challenge there. There is a challenge, because the wrong mindset can wreck not just the relationship, but that individual's personal kind of stature. And we talk about this all the time, and relationships are not just about you as an individual. To go into a relationship, you're kind of going into the relationship considering that you've developed yourself somewhat. Like, you're a good candidate. We had a video way back called "Are You Marriage Material?" You think you're marriage material, basically. If you ain't seen that, check that in the playlist. And I think it's important for us to kind of really evaluate if we're ready, because so many times we've made the point that marriage is really for mature. It's for mature people. It's not for children. Marriage is not for, the immature of heart, the immature of mind. So like you're saying, there needs to be an appropriate mindset, because where that mindset doesn't exist, again, that's how we get to this place where exactly what you've said, you don't listen to me. And again, this is a conflicting worldviews. You come together, so one person's a feminist, the other person is not, and it's kind of like, loggerheads basically. So I think that's a challenge. We've got two more on there. So life choices. How would you say life choices is kind of like a route into getting us to the space where we're selfish, maybe somewhat prideful and inconsiderate of the other person?
I mean, and I think for me, this is where the whole sometimes parenting isn't always the problem. Because some people can raise their children properly, you know, to the best that they can. They're not spoiling them. They're not, giving them too much liberty in a sense to when they get to a mature enough age to not listen. They've done what they can. But then a lot of, children can go off. A lot of children can go off and start to find their own path. And on this journey that they're on, especially if they don't have that guidance, if they're not being checked on, if they're just being left in a sense of you finish college now, you're 18, I've done what I can. If you want to listen, if you don't want to listen, don't listen. It's not, well, a lot of children can get to that place where they want to be like, I want I want to know for myself. I want to find out things for myself. I want to experience for myself. And on that journey, you know, who knows what life is going to give them, especially if they have that attitude of, oh, I must find out for myself. Yeah. I don't want to learn from anyone else's mistake. I heard what you said. Thank you very much. But that was you. Now this is me. Let me do me. And
sure. Your dad's old statement. So, no, go on.
And on that path of let me do me, you know, things can happen. They can get hurt. They can find themselves in awkward situations. They might start to listen to, you know, people who might have a completely different worldview to what they were, what they were brought up in. And again, you know, a lot of the times children at a young age, they can get into celebrity lifestyles. They can get into looking at all those things, music, magazines, fashion, all these kind of things.
The children. We're talking about grown adults today.
Obviously, I'm talking as you know, teenagers in a sense. Because like maturing into that. It's not always a parenting thing that causes someone not to be, you know, a good listener in a sense, you know. So for me, it's one of those things. And then just life. Some people might get into alcohol. Some people might get into drugs. Some people might get into just many different things that can cause them, like the choices that they made can cause them to fall off what they were taught, the things that they were brought up in, whether they were brought up in the faith, whether they were brought up, you know, with really good morals and things like that. And they can just lose that and think to themselves, oh, I just want to be this brand new person. Not knowing that being this brand new person is actually detrimental to the future you. You know, that the parents probably kind of foresaw things and was like, okay, we know how life can get, so let's try to kind of like you know, direct you in a sense. But no, you don't want direction, fine, okay, you know. So life choices 100% can be a major factor in this situation, especially if people, you know, let's just say two people in their early 30s, they get together now and they've gone through all of these things, and here we are with all the baggage, with all the hurt, with all the pain, with all the things that they chose to experience that they didn't need to experience. Now they're going to walk down this road of marriage. For them, it's a happy time, it's a happy place. Oh, I'm engaged, I'm getting married, I found someone. However, without sort of planning and prepping and thinking, okay, wait, how am I going to relate to this person? You know, I know I can be rude, you know, and not discussing. And a lot of times people hide those things. People really hide that part of themselves. You know, they don't respond when they're just, you know, on that
best behavior. They're on their best behavior.
They're on the best behavior.
That period, those early days.
That's right. Because they know, oh, if I lash out, if I give everything, he might not take. Do you understand? She might not want me. He might not want me. So they're on their best behavior. But then a lot of times, some people have that mindset. Once I lock it in, then I can kind of like take my clothes off in a sense, or just let my hair down, which terminology people want to use. So definitely, life choices can 100% be a major factor in how people end up relating to their spouse, or whether they're going to be aggressive. And again, there's the whole you know, it's not just men that are aggressive. Women are very aggressive too. You know, again, depending on how what she's experienced in life, that can cause her to be extremely aggressive. You know, and I feel like aggression also plays a major part in this as well, because if someone does not know how to talk without wanting to get rough, or wanting to throw something, or wanting to hit, or wanting to scream or shout or smash, now that becomes a major problem. And aggression is something that a lot of people don't really focus on, and they might not get to see until they're in that real sticky position.
They don't know, and the signs are not always easy, or they're not, as you're saying, they're not always targeting those signs in the early days.
That's
you know, if someone's kind of a little too impatient, a little too feisty, a little too, you're out kind of at a restaurant and someone's kind of handling the servers in a particular way, or etc. Of course. I
mean, like, take me for instance. I grew up with a good couple, you know, a few brothers, a lot of male friends. You know, the streets was kind of like our main home at a time. You know, we're constantly out, constantly clubbing, constantly doing certain things. So as a young girl, there was opportunities and windows for aggression to creep in. You know, oh, who wants to fight this person? Who's trying to attack my friend? Who do you think you're talking to? He was never really scared to just come up in someone and say, like, do you want it? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So sometimes some of us grow up in an aggressive environment, but then as we get older, we calm down. Doesn't mean it's still not there, but we've removed ourselves from that from those environments where it comes out. But then when we get into a marriage, now this person is the person that might end up receiving all that backlash from the things that we didn't deal with when we were younger. So I think there is a lot in there.
I think that you raised a lot of powerful points. We'll just jump forward from here. So there are a lot of roots that can cause this kind of contentious, this kind of lack of listening, this lack of attentiveness. And I think it's really important that we hone in and we're respectful of the situation. I'm not saying that we accept it or we say that, it's cool, but it's good for us to understand the big picture, the whole picture, and see what it is. That we've not even touched on, and much of what we've spoken about is relevant to it, but we've not even touched on the fact that there are spiritual angles to some of this stuff as well. So just leaving it open for you guys now. So next thing is really like, what are some of the character traits? So we've spoken about this some already, but what are some of the character traits that are just... And let me throw a question out to you guys really quickly as well. So on that, what are there any other roots that we've maybe missed out, not touched on, not tackled, that you've experienced, about, or you've come across in terms of, a spouse not listening, a partner choosing to, demonstrate character traits that are not ideal for the relationship? Because really we're talking about, that spouse that's just that little bit, contentious. The scripture talks about it's better
always just wants to fight for everything. Everything just has to be an argument.
The scripture talks about that it's better for a man to be on the rooftop than me with that, that wife that's like the tap that's just like tap, tap, tap. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there are those, and I'm not shooting at you women, because obviously there are certain husbands that can be in that same position as well.
Definitely.
But let's talk about some of the traits, some of the characteristics that maybe we see as super challenging for the relationship, or characteristics that we see are the derivatives of what we've spoken about here and now, basically. So I think the first one we characterized together, we were talking about this, was stubbornness. Yeah. So you touched on this earlier on. It's like, you must listen to me because I don't want to be in a position where you're riding over me. But inadvertently, by forcing that person to listen and implement, they are, by proxy, overriding the other person. And this is one of the greatest challenges we have with relationships, because people think it's, people go into a relationship with this attitude of it's me versus you, it's you versus me. And that is a surefire way for you to cause your relationship to self-destruct. You can't go into a marriage trying to get one up on your spouse. Like, that is not the aim of the game. We are a team. We are working together. We should have collective goals. And if that's not the case, if you find that you're constantly going at loggerheads with your spouse, that there's constant arguments, constant battles, constant fights, you need to revisit your family plan, your family goal. You need to revisit that and really establish, where are we what's not congruent in our vision. Because obviously if you're constantly hitting heads about money, constantly hitting heads about the location of where you live, constantly hitting heads about the children, constantly hitting heads about your faith and your long-term desires, then something's up. There's something up. And there's no point, and I'm not saying this as an advocate for you to kind of separate, but there's no point like going the long road with marriage if you're not prepared to be humble, to humble yourself, go into that relationship with meekness, willing to learn from your spouse, willing to obviously teach, willing to learn, and at the same time willing to grow together. This is super important when we consider what it really means to be in a relationship for the long haul. All right, you need to be united. You need to be together. If you're not together, if you're not focused on this, then it's a big issue. I think for me, the another trait would be selfishness. Just straight up selfishness. I mean, we've got stubbornness, then we've got selfishness. But you know what? I think to myself sometimes, how would someone early on pick up on selfish traits? Of the person that they're about to engage into enter into a marriage with. Easy. Because I know, but there's I don't want to. I don't really like that place. There's the things where it's kind of like you can understand. Okay, I don't really like Japanese food. Oh, but I know you like Japanese food, but I don't really like Japanese food. So can we go? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So for me, it's just kind of like if somebody is not able to pick up
what a selfish person looks like early on, they could end up marrying this person and they are extremely selfish, and due to the fact that they're extremely selfish, they kick, they scream, they're not budging, obviously, and selfishness sometimes can come across like, oh no, I'm doing this for us. I care about us, hence why I'm not allowing us to do this. Yeah. Kind of thing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
And it plays, and it could be obviously the husband or the wife that can be extremely selfish. However, for me, it's one of those things where a selfish person can make a marriage very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Absolutely, I agree.
And it's not one of those traits that is easy to break down because it's deep rooted.
Yeah.
A selfish person didn't just become selfish 2 years ago. They didn't just become, some people have bad relationship experience where they gave.
Yeah.
Right. And then they kept getting their heart broken. Then they decided, you know what, the next relationship, I'm not going to give anymore. But if it's been done to them because of past hurts, it can be repaired if they find someone who really, truly,
in some instances,
truly does love them. At some point, it will break. That person will realize, okay, I was being selfish because of past hurts, because of what other people have done to me, but this person isn't doing that. However, when someone is selfish from small, hey, that one now is a major problem.
So my view is really that it's all about how we choose to evaluate the situation. We spoke to you guys constantly, all right? For those of you kind of in the courting phase at an earlier stage, hard questions. And even like those of you who are in your relationship already, like, you still need to be having hard talk. Hard talk is a fundamental proponent of successful marriage.
Definitely,
that's right.
100%.
And I think out the gate, and I've got a couple of friends come to mind here, and they are kind of, I'll put it this way, they are about themselves, but they're so honest and open that they won't hide it.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So even before marriage, they'll be like, look, listen, this is me. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's
oh, that's so bad.
No, you say it's bad, but it's refreshing. It's refreshing in that they're honest about it. And the fact they're honest,
but are they willing to change?
So here we go. So this is like, so there's so much there. So the first thing is really, are you keen in that early stage or in your relationship, the early days, to really interrogate and answer like hard questions? Are you a selfish person? They want to ask, are you selfish?
Who's going to admit that they're selfish?
What do you mean? It's like, so
who's going to admit that they're selfish?
So listen, you can take it. You can take an opposite stance. So how often do you give to charity? Oh, are you a charity? Do you like? So it's like,
really, babe, charity.
Real
Give
talk.
a different example.
No, listen. If you're talking to someone,
some single people might be watching right now and think to themselves, "I don't give to charity, and I'm not selfish."
No, but they might be. Like,
do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. And as well, some people might not mind giving to charity because they know that it's for the greater good. Some people
their marriage isn't the greater good, though, is it?
Some people actually give to charity to make them feel better. Like, I'm doing something for the world.
Yeah, of course. To
relieve themselves, to make themselves not think that they're selfish. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, some people use those tactics to kind of be like, they meet someone, I give to this charity, and I give to that, and I donate to here and there. And the man's thinking, oh, girl, you're a giver, huh? And before you know it, hey, she's perfect. You understand? So
I'm saying that
charity is not a good example. You got to come with something else.
Questions need to be asked. I think questions need to be asked early on to establish and evaluate. You can talk about, gift giving. You can talk about, it's just really about evaluating the relationship. One of the first things I was thinking is, when you go out for dinner, those kind of things, it's like, are they paying? Are they not paying? Are they how are they moving?
Yeah.
Are they generous? Do they tip? Don't they tip? Those kind of things. You observe those kind of things, and they can really tell you about someone, about someone's nature. How do they talk about other people? Are they kind of, because that selfishness comes with some other traits as well. Yeah, it's not just kind of like, I'm selfish. It's kind of like, at times there's a kind of a bit of a pompous attitude. Yeah. There's a nature that's kind of just not, it's not true, loving. It's true. They look down on other people, those kind of things. So I think that's a fact. Anyway. Yeah, there's too much stuff that we can cut into on that. So
definitely. But I think selfishness is definitely one of those traits where someone is able to either like tackle and be like, babe, you know what? I know, but I've noticed, like, saying it straight away, because sometimes, like I said, some people are so sort of it's part of them that they don't even really see it.
Yeah.
And like you said, you've got those honest people who will be like, look, this is what I'm about. I'm like this, yeah. So I don't know how your friends would explain themselves.
I don't know either.
To people. But, but then you also have people who just don't see it as an issue. It's, but I like what I like. There's nothing wrong with me liking what I like. I like black, and I only want a black kitchen, and I want the wardrobe to be black, and all that kind of stuff. So people they might just see it as, no, but it's just what I like, kind of thing.
I get you, and you remember that was me to a degree earlier on when it comes to food. I'm very much like, I know what I like what I know. That's just me, and it's like I'm comfortable in a space, and obviously over the years with you, I've kind of been a little bit more flexible, and it's not that I don't eat. Like I can eat quite a range palette, but I think the reality is, out of all the things I try and I like, I kind of have the few things that I know, this is what I enjoy, this is what I like. So we have to evaluate just the interactions with the other person, with our spouse, with the would-be spouse, to really get clarity on the type of person they are. And you're never going to get that without talking. You're never going to get that without conversation. Even those hard questions about worldviews. If you're talking about faith, if you're talking about beliefs, if you're talking about their past, there are always ways for you to plug and ask questions to really evaluate. So there are people I know that kind of support their parents. So if you're supporting your parents, is that something that you do? It's like, when you're old, when you're older and when your parents are really old and they've retired, is there any kind of support you think you'd give to them? Like those kind of probing questions. Where are your parents going to live when they're older? If your parents are still around, is there anyone in your family that maybe you'd cater to? All of those things, I think, are tells for us to get a picture of the kind of person they are.
That's true.
I think it's really just about observing their culture and understanding the type of culture they've got. I think that really, really helps.
Okay.
That's what I see. I think another one of these things is, it's just the way I am. This phrase, you kind of alluded to it just now. It's like, that thing gets to me so much. It's just like, this is the way I am. It's just the way I am. And my thing is always kind of like, all right, cool. So how's that working for you? Because people be talking, this is me. This is who I am. And I know it's so difficult for us at times to kind of tear away our bias when looking at ourselves. But this is a super important thing, especially when you're engaging someone newly. If you're looking at, you're kind of in a kind of fresh encounter, and you hear a person constantly presenting this idea, it's this is the way I like to do things, this is the way I am, I'm very particular about stuff. There's nothing wrong with a person who's particular, but it's about the question is, what are they particular about, and why are they so particular all the time about everything? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, everyone is really particular. When someone's constantly announcing, I'm particular, and then you're particular about certain things all the time, and we find that it's not a positive, maybe these are negative things, we need to evaluate that and see, like look forward, what is this a kind of foreshadowing of what could be coming down the road? This is super important, because if we don't evaluate these things now, like you're saying, we get to the point of marriage and it's kind of like, it's a challenge, it's a real challenge. So and let me just caveat it with this here. No, we're not trying to say that anyone's perfect.
No, of course not.
Sometimes when we talk like this, it can seem like we're saying, you know what, you need to find, like, the person who comes across with the presentation of, 007. They're just got all the right words, you know what I'm saying?
They've got it all mapped out.
The three-piece suit and that. But it's not really about that, but it's about safeguarding yourself and ensuring you don't find yourself, we spoke about toxicity previously, and making sure you don't find yourself in a toxic relationship. You're not finding yourself with someone who you're going to regret later on. And for those of us who are in relationships today, these questions, these kind of conversations are there to help us develop our relationship. And we say it all the time, this playlist on this channel is here for us to help you thrive, understand, to really help you develop and create an authentic love, an authentic relationship for you. Super important.
Yeah, I was going to say another trait that I think it's that can be quite key in this is an argumentative person. Someone that's very argumentative with everything. You say A and they want to take it to Z very quickly.
I think I've got a special name for those people.
You better tell me what that name is.
No, go on.
Some people say that they're naturally argumentative, but there's a difference between debating and having like a good debate, a good a conversation that is going somewhere due to your differences, and
everyone can have a healthy opposition. That's fine.
And there's just argumentative. I think that's definitely a trait that people can pick up on quite easily.
Those things are triggered from again this, and I think what's really key about this is you know, we might see someone who is this way inclined and automatically just be like, you know what, like, write off. And the question is, if they're like really doing discovery around this, like, why are you like this? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that like really presses your buttons? What ticks you off? Because one of the things we need to factor in is that, you know, there are differences. Like, there are times where the differences between a husband and a wife, they really complement and enrich each other. Yeah. And we don't ever want to find ourselves in an abusive situation. We are not looking to find ourselves in an abusive marriage by any means. Yet that our focus is really to understand our spouse. Right now, imagine you're in a relationship right now, and your spouse is that argumentative person, and you've been dealing with that for years. They're just kind of always argumentative, always want to argue.
Doesn't matter who it is. Argue with their mom, argue with the boss, argue with the colleague, argue with the sister, argue with the brother, argue with the person in the shop who's serving them. Do you know what I mean? And you do get people like that. They just 100%. Jump on someone with everything. You know, they're just jumpy.
And we're gonna talk into that now, but like, we need to really establish, how can we fix that?
Yeah, that's
how
right.
can we work on that?
That's
and you know, prayer and fasting is a major one. You need to be doing that behind the scenes. When you're dealing with them, how can you practically address them? Prayer and fasting is super practical, 100%. In addition to those spiritual activities, practically, what can you do to address those situations? And I think these things are key, and this is why understanding where these things come from, doing this kind of discovery, these things are really important, so we can get a clear picture of what we're dealing with, what's going on, what's really happening.
Because I was going to say, even though you have someone with all of these different type of traits that we've spoken about, doesn't mean they're not loving, doesn't mean that they don't love you, doesn't mean that they're not caring and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, in order to, let's say, reduce the amount of contention that you have in the marriage, these particular traits can be a big issue, and these are the things that one has to really consider, and how are they gonna, you know, address these particular issues
100%.
when they do arise. You know, it's not to say someone who is argumentative isn't going to be I was about to say submissive, but if they are, it's going to be quite challenging for them too. But doesn't mean they won't learn in time, because I was going to say it's like with me, I was quite challenging. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's like,
so she was.
Well, you know, and I grew up in an environment where it was kind of like, yeah, you say your piece. Don't be scared to say your piece, you know, kind of thing.
Are you scared to say your piece now?
No.
You see?
You know, and it was always kind of like, you know, sometimes your voice is all you're going to have. Your opinion is all you're going to have. Yeah. People will look at you, you know, might look at you and disregard you for certain things. However, your voice is what you use to kind of combat it. You know, you don't always have to use your fist. You can use your mouth. Sometimes people are scared of someone because that person will talk someone to the ground, that's right. And you know, and they can win a fight basically, or a situation.
Confrontation,
exactly, just by the person's like, okay, I don't want you, because if your mouth is moving like this, I don't know what you're gonna do. So if you lay hand, you know, kind of thing. So, you know, you kind of just grew up, you know, in that space where it was, you know, you'd argue kind of thing. So for me, you know, just putting it out there, it was not easy at all to get to the place where you just zip it.
Do you just zip it now, Rex?
Sometimes. But now I kind of know how to present myself. Okay. And I think that's what it is sometimes. The person who is argumentative, the person who finds that they are selfish, the person who is stubborn, they also have to want to get better. Yeah. They have to want to work on themselves for the relationship. Yeah, absolutely. You know? Absolutely. So it's kind of like, okay, why am I always arguing with my husband? Like, why am I always Why am I? They have to start asking themselves, because if they don't do that, there's only so much that you could do for me. Yeah. Do you understand? You say, you know, Sarah, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about, and I had to get to the place where I was like, you know what, Sarah, at the end of the day, this is the man that God has given you to lead. Let him lead, you know, just surrender, you know what I mean? And sometimes, and that decision...
Have you surrendered?
I surrendered, babe. Gosh. And, you know, sometimes that's just what it takes. As hard as it is, sometimes, you know, sometimes... You really want it to go your way. You know, there's a situation.
That's life, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a situation you just think to yourself, no, I think my solution is the best solution. I think my solution is gonna work. And you don't. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, at the end of the day, you have the last say. You know, and if you go with mine, well, hallelujah. If you don't go with mine, okay. I'm sure the Lord has ministered to you, and you know what you're doing, kind of thing. You know, so maybe you're in for. You know, so for me, I definitely I personally had to work on that, guys, okay? And it's, you know, it's definitely something that I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I'm Miss Prim and I don't say nothing, I keep my nails to myself, you know, you know what I'm saying? So for me, it was something that I did have to work on. I did grow up in an environment where it was, you know, you had to fend for yourself. So you enter into a marriage sometimes, and you still have that, I have to fend for myself mentality. For a while, you know, it's not always, when we get married, it's not always, oh, this person's never going anywhere, they're going to be here for the rest of my life, You do get those thoughts where, okay, if something happens, or if, you know, if someone tries to come between, what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And you try to, I would say it like this, the enemy would try to make you make plan B, right, instead of just sticking with plan A and focusing on plan A. Sometimes you start coming at plan B, then plan C shows up, and then, you know, so, you know, you don't always give everything straight away. You kind of still you know, there are some blockers that we do put up in you know, in our relationship, in our marriages, because some people still do, and this is where divorce and all that kind of can easily happen, because people are kind of always ready to be like, well, I've got plan B. If this doesn't go as planned, do you get what I'm trying to say?
It takes a lot to kind of let your guard down. We spoke about some of that, really, to kind of be open and to develop that intimacy that is not physical. That intimacy that is kind of the conversation. That intimacy that is kind of the physical touch. That intimacy that is, you know, the psychological sharing of past hurts, past challenges, all those kind of things. So, and all of those things, I think, contribute into kind of what you're talking about today. And I think it's a lot in terms of that, you know, argumentative space. Just kind of building on what Sarah's saying there. Like, sometimes you're in a marriage today, you've got a spouse, they're argumentative, and you find that, there's no submission, there's no consideration, there's no conceding. You know, sometimes it just takes time. Like, and on the flip side, you need to really ask yourself how patient you're going to be. The person who's in the receipt of this kind of behavior that we might call unacceptable, how patient are you going to be? How willing are you to see the end of the road? And many a time, it's that patience, it's that mindset, that consideration to say, you know, I'm here for the long haul. I'm here to make it work. I'm here to support my spouse through these challenges, and it's that mentality and that mindset that really helps you to win. I think so. It's like, it's not always about, have they conceded now? Are they okay now? Sometimes it's about maybe this time, maybe next time, maybe the time after that, and that kind of longevity thinking, that focus on the long road, I think that really helps in terms of the flip side of how to kind of deal with and receive that behavior that's not ideal. But even so, we're kind of talking, we're now actually segueing into some of those solutions, and let's talk about that a little bit. So what we're really talking about now is kind of just the character and the conduct of an individual who's receiving that. But what would you say, like, some of the solutions for couples? You've got someone's got a contentious spouse, contentious husband, contentious wife. They are failing to listen, failing to share, failing to talk, super argumentative, extremely selfish. What advice are you going to give to them? What, maybe one thing would you say, you know what, you need to do this, you need to try this, maybe go down this road?
I mean, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, counseling, seeking help mentally, because sometimes it's, you know, those things
individually or collectively.
Well, at first it's probably best to do a collective one, so that the person that the spouse who is the dominant issue will understand how it's affecting their husband or their wife. Because if they just go by themselves, the other person isn't there to share what they're going through, the experiences, the fact that the children are being affected, the fact that their finances are being affected by this, the fact that their health are being affected. Because again, you know, like the Bible says, it's better to live on the rooftop than the same house with someone who is contentious, because because the Lord knows that it can cause someone to begin to have mental problems. It's kind of like, it's not, and you know what, it's not that, you know, the Lord said run away, you're still in the same environment, but you've distanced yourself. And sometimes being distant, sometimes can say to someone, I'm not happy. It shows, look, I'm not happy. And there are problems here. That's why I'm distant. That's why, I've moved out to my mum's house for a while, or I'm not coming home from work straight away anymore because they just don't want to be in that environment. So for me, counselling would definitely be something that I would say that they go and seek, because together as a couple to really share, the issues that the other person is facing, and how the spouse who is being argumentative, contentious, or causing these issues, how they are affecting everything else.
Cool. That's powerful. And I think that kind of would feed into the core thing. We've mentioned it already, really here. Talking is massively important. Sometimes we don't understand the value of conversation, the value of talking. And before even I would get to counselling, my initial thing would be like, talk to my spouse, talk to your spouse and see what's going on. Talk to your spouse and see if they'll listen. Talk to your spouse and see if you can make headway. And once you find that, that level of talking, so we've got an umbrella here talking right now, and once you find that the talking one-to-one isn't working, maybe at that point I say, get accountable. Who are you guys accountable to? Get somebody in. Maybe this counsellor, you may go for coaching. It may be in this instance it's a friend or a couple that you trust. You're saying, you know what, we're going to go to them because we trust them. We, like, both of you feel maybe a little bit more comfortable. Sometimes, and this is really important, we're talking about, I think, a couple recently, just some stuff going on, and sometimes it's really about finding a coach, a counsellor, accountability partner that the person who is kind of the major influence, major challenge is more comfortable with. You understand?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, oh no, I want someone who's going to be on both of our sides. But firstly, you need to ensure that the person you're going to is sober-minded. They're a sober accountability point of accountability. Next to that, may need to be someone that they are trustworthy of, that they feel comfortable with. That will really help, because in that counsel, they're more likely to listen, more likely to share, and you're more likely to leave that place, go away from there, having had some success, having had some real shifts. And that's what's super important. It's like ensuring we get that shift is what's super important, I think.
And sometimes people just need, people do need that situation to break down certain layers for them to actually see, oh wait, like, where did this come from? Did I get this from here? And they can begin to start to see, they can begin to analyze themselves, and start to dig deep themselves to say, okay, this isn't what I was like 10 years ago. Or, gosh, like, I didn't grow up in this environment. Why am I being like this kind of thing? And then it can help to bring people to a point of realization as well when they go through those kind of experiences, like you said, with the accountabilities, the coaches, the counselors, stuff like that. Totally. So, yeah, definitely, it will help.
Quick question to you guys. So, do you believe that someone like this really deserves to be married? Like, someone who is contentious, someone who has these kind of, some of the traits we're talking about, and some people are probably looking at themselves saying, hold on, but that's me, you're describing me. But let's be honest for a moment, like, is that really...
Maybe not deserve to be married. Would you think
No. Do they? Because you know what? This channel called Marriage. Marriage matters, isn't it? It's like, do they really? Because
or are they ready for marriage?
Marriage is really, like, come on. Marriage is like a privilege, and I know, like, we take it like it's just kind of some people take it like it's some kind of throwaway thing, but it's not. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is it's a real situation, and if we acknowledge that some people are not deserving of marriage, then the truth of the matter is, marriage, the statistics, what we see, the evidence will be a lot more positive. You understand? So I'm throwing it out there. If you think like everyone deserves to be married, just chuck it in there. Do you know? I just want to know. I just want to know what your thoughts are. Next to that, another question. Let's quickly talk about this before we go back to the solutions really quickly. Just chime in. So, what does this type of selfishness, what does this type of contention, this type of marriage union, do to the environment? So thinking about why the spouse, like, how does it affect other people, basically is what I'm saying. So we've got children, we've got your spouse, we've got maybe external family members, we've got your community. How are those things affected based on this kind of behavior, this kind of mentality? What would you say?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, obviously, if people have started a family and they haven't sorted out these particular issues that arise. And generally that's mainly the case, isn't it? Generally that's mainly the case. Like, you know, people, you know, you get married and you just kind of like chugger on through, and then, you know, children come and, you know, you move area, whatever it may be, or you start a business or whatever it might be. Life is moving, isn't it? Yeah. However, the fulfillment of life won't really be there in a sense, because the environment will not be conducive to bear good fruit. You know, it just won't be conducive. It's like if a plant is sitting in bad soil, it's not going to produce, you know, it's not going to be as beautiful as it should. It might be surviving. You're pouring water on it. It might still grow a little bit,
not thriving,
but it won't thrive. It won't produce the type of plant. It won't be the plant that it's been called to be. It's been desired to be. You know, it's been created to be, shall I say? So it's definitely, and that's the thing, people can look like the marriage is okay. That's right. They can look like things are okay, you know, but really and truly, is it okay? And then you get to the position where the same thing that happened to them, let's say if it was something that they grew up in,
come on now,
then they have now thrown their children into that situation, and then they're now going to breed another situation for someone else's child.
And how does that parent-child seed harvest or cause and affect the community at large, the wider community? Because like you just said, someone else's child is now affected, and now and if they continue that, you know, we've got a community now that has a constant this kind of perpetuating negative contributing individuals to family. So you got these bad wives or these bad husbands. You've got these negative people who are my words today, you know, who are influencing the fabric of married society. They think this is how marriage goes. This is what marriage looks like, and hence they are devaluing the construct of marriage.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because sometimes when I think about the conversations that I have with my in-laws, and we sit down, we laugh and we joke about it, but it's that's seriously what we do. Like, you know, when I think about raising the children, I'm always kind of like, my daughters are going to be wives one day. My sons are going to be husbands one day. So whatever we're doing to raise them, we're preparing them for that moment. So it's kind of like, okay, I've always said it, you know, I want my sons to be able to do things around the house, to be able to be sufficient enough so that when they get married, when their wives are put into bed or they're not available, whatever, they can still keep the home, you know, and all of these things. And that itself is thinking about, how am I going to contribute to society? You know, we can't contribute to society in everything, if you get what I'm trying to say. But what we can do is by raising children, thinking forward, in a sense, thinking forward on the seeds that we sow, the way that we raise them, the way that we get them to be, you know, that they're able to be functional in a sense. They're not dependent on money. They're not dependent on daddy, you know. Doing just like doing little things, you know, making sure that they can put things in the washing machine and sweep the floor and clean their room and dress their bed when they wake up, you know, making sure that they can, you know, take their plate off the table and pick things off the floor, all those kind of things. That's me saying, this is how we are trying to contribute to society, by raising children who, you know, can understand that the things that they do will and can affect others, you know. And once you enter into a relationship, you enter into a marriage with someone, you are now part of another family who extends how wide. That's right, you know, right. Some people might come from just a 2-parent home with one sibling, and they end up marrying someone in a 2-parent home or a single-parent home with 7 siblings. Straight. You know, and that's, again, multiple people. You've got siblings, you've got aunties, and that is a community in itself. When you marry into a family, you are marrying into a community in itself. You know, so, but what are you bringing to that community? You know, so it definitely does affect it. I can't answer it to the point where it's like, it's this. No,
you've said it. You said it. That's a lot.
I still feel like whatever we do now does affect the communities that we enter. You know, So yeah.
Powerful stuff. Thank you so much. Yes, I think another solution that we consider, and I think this is paramount. I mentioned it kind of at the top end of the video, and we've mentioned this on other videos talking about really preparing yourself for marriage. And you can still do this while you're in marriage, mid-flow. Consider personal development. Consider personal development programs. And if you've got a spouse who's kind of some way inclined, you actually can enroll on courses together, enroll on courses individually, focus on kind of the goals that you're trying to achieve again. And sometimes these courses are able to reveal some of these things to your spouse, to yourself. And it can happen together, it can happen separately. And these things are really powerful because when this kind of stuff happens, it enables you to address those things from a more defensive stance, basically. And when I say that, from a less offensive is what I mean, a less offensive stance. So it's not kind of, you've got a problem, you need to sort that out. It's kind of like, oh, you know the program we're going through, so you look at your scores, look at mine. So it says that you're really more of this type of person, and I'm more of this type of person. And those kind of things are really helpful because we said it before, just lots of talking. Talking is the key. And anything that you can do to prompt that conversation, to prod that conversation, to encourage that conversation, if it's accountability, coaching, counseling, these kind of training programs, this kind of stuff really, really helps. It really helps us to get to a space where we're getting the clarity that we need, we're getting the understanding that we need, and we're getting the help that we need to move forward and progress in our relationships. Yo, you got anything more, or do you want to jump into these
let's jump into the comments, because I feel like we could talk on this for for ages.
You guys know how we do, right?
Definitely.
What do you want to start with? Just checking through the comments, guys.
Yeah, just start from the top. We can hear you. Let's start from Ecosmio says, that's... okay. Ecosmio.
What was it?
8:32. Ecosmio says, that will be on him for marrying a feminist. Laugh out loud.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Oh... the way she ran back from the TV. Right, okay. Eagles Meal says, but what if they didn't start out like that, but had grown up contentious over the years, but refused to acknowledge it because they were so mild-mannered before?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a great question. I think that's a great question. And,
and that does happen. You see that time and time. Yeah, especially if people going through like a they're with someone who is quite tough in a sense, and the marriage is very tough, and they found themselves surrounded by people who constantly kind of like use them. The person, sometimes some people are very polite and they're quite helpful, and they find that, wait, I'm being taken for a ride here. Your mum's taking me for a ride. Your sister's taking me for a ride. Your cousins are taking me for a ride. My colleagues are taking me for... And then they get to a place where they're like, no, I'm not having this anymore. Yeah. I'm not having this anymore. And they kind of snap. People tend to say they snap.
Yeah.
And they snap into a completely different person. And that person that they've now snapped into isn't very nice.
Yeah.
And then they found themselves in this situation. However, like Ecosmio says, they weren't always like that from the beginning. They weren't like that from the beginning, and that does happen. But then again, it's you can see that someone who finds himself in that position, they can get help because they've snapped, because they feel like people are using them. They're not being appreciated.
Yeah.
They've been taken for a ride. So it would be for the spouse, the person, to speak up, and for the spouse to say why you like this, and for them to just openly be like, well, I'm like this because of A, B, C, D. And then they're like, okay, so this is the problem. All right, let's fix this problem now before we get into 10 years, 15 years, and we're still dealing with this issue kind of thing. So that definitely can be...
a scenario. Yeah. Absolutely. I think Sarah's touched on it. And again, like a lot of these things, for us, this is really key. Conversation is the key to clarity in your relationship.
Yeah.
Conversation is the key. It really, where you're both honest, you're going to both come forward honestly.
Yeah.
It really moves you away from that space of being, dealing with assumptions, dealing with insinuations, dealing with, the lies that our emotions can tell us sometimes, basically. So it's really important to really converse. And this, as Cesar said, this is a common scenario we see in a lot of different places, a lot of different relationships. And I think just in terms of addressing it, it's really about conversations. I think it starts with that, like if you're kind of on the not on the bolder side, you don't want to go out kind of all guns blazing, like I said, like let's do a course together, let's do some training on like on character, personal development or whatever. And you know, some people might be like, I don't need that. But I think those kind of things are really helpful to kind of to trigger some of the answers. So I hope that helps. Is it Grace's next?
Yes.
Trying to hide your negative traits and then letting your hair down after marriage seems deceptive. Yeah, I think we've got to be honest. Like, we live in a world where people might say to you, you know, I'm just putting my best behaviour forward. I'm just putting my best foot forward. And we say that this is deceptive, but people do this every day. They go to job interview and you don't go there and sit down
and tell them how true and how lazy you are.
You don't sit down and start farting in your job interview. You just be like, you go there. You like, you wear your best clothes. You wear your best attitude. You put on your best face.
That's right.
Men might shave. Women might do their hair. You go there putting your best foot forward. So why would anyone do any less in marriage? And this is why tough questions and not putting ourselves in a position where we just presume that, you know, this is the wonder boy or wonder girl that we're engaging with.
That's right.
They actually have another side we've not seen it. And I'm not saying, when I say other side, I don't mean like it's a negative side, but it's really about understanding human nature. The more time you spend with someone, the more about that person you can understand and see. And it's really about, for those of us who are kind of courting or even married couples, it's like, you want to see your spouse, you want to see your would-be spouse in as many different scenarios around many different people as possible. Seth spoke earlier on about the person who's angry. They're angry and they don't want to show their anger off. Maybe that's what sparked this question. And so obviously you want to put them around your brothers. You want to put them around your sisters. You want to go to the theatre. You want to go to a leisure place. You want to kind of see them in different scenarios, so you can see how they act, because you know, it's not easy. Like, unless you're very skilled, it's not easy to put on a facade for long periods of time. That's right. If we're attentive and in those situations, we're gonna acknowledge, okay, I see that. I see that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if someone says, I'll end with this. Someone will go like, there's some flamboyant, you know, millionaire. Like, you go out with them a few times, go to a few places, you'll know if their card be declining or if, do you know what I mean? They're asking you, oh, do you want to go half on this one? It's like, you observe their traits, and it's the same thing. Somebody's smiling all the time, and the world is so wonderful. Then, like, you go out with them a few times, catch them after work. Maybe catch them, like, you know, I'm just, you know, you want to go gym with them early in the morning. Like, all of those kind of things show you their punctuality, their time, their mentality, like the kind of person that they really are. You were going to say something, babe?
No, I was going to say, I mean, still... everyone still deserves support, you know. So even though they are, you know, coming across like they've got it all, you know, and when you do find out that they haven't got it all together, you know, that it's then left for the person to decide that do they want to support them through this.
Absolutely. And I think this is the key. It's like, marriage is really about, and for those of us kind of on the front end, those of us who are in it already, we know this, but marriage is really about acknowledging that I'm willing to do all that I can with all that I have to bring out the best of the best of the best in my partner. Do you understand? Definitely. It's like that complementary nature I was talking to you about before. That's really what we're talking about here. And it's not, we don't go into marriage like, I'm the best, you're the best, and it's like, we're going to be the best independently. It's like, it's that's a facade, and we need to acknowledge that we're all growing in this thing. Everybody's growing in life, in marriage.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, great question, Ecosmios. Great question, Grace. Thank you so much. I see Ecosmios says, warning signs, controlling behavior, wanting to micromanage every aspect of your life, from friends you talk to booking your doctor's appointments. Run, sisters, run. Ecosmios says, I heard someone who confessed openly the other day they don't have children yet because they're selfish. And I think that's a reality, you know, and that's a reality of life. And I wonder if that conversation happened between them and their spouse earlier on. Because this is one of the things, it's like, I'd be cool with that if they discussed it. If they had discussed it.
If it's an upfront thing.
If they've discussed it, it's kind of like, boom, boom, boom. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, we're going to do this, and this. Like, I've heard that kind of conversation, that kind of like language before as well. And it makes sense. It's like for certain people who maybe have got married young or have been career focused or whatever. It's like, I want to get my career on lock and then, or I want to enjoy my life and then.
Exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying? So there are those mentalities that exist. And we need to understand why you're getting married in the first place as well. Do you understand? What are the goals of your marriage? So, this is key, man. This is key. And, thank you so much for sharing that, because it's important. Some people don't realise that is a picture of people. Some people just think, marriage, kids come, children come, and then, but it's not always the way. It's not always the way.
And it's good if people can be honest with themselves with things like this as well before marriage. It's just like, I don't want to get married because I'm selfish, like because they're selfish, and they don't want to put that on someone else, and they don't want to have to have someone go through this just because they want things their own kind of way. And like you said, does everyone deserve to be married? And if people are honest with themselves with certain things about themselves, they can actually answer that question themselves. Like, do I actually deserve to be married, or would I even make, like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Now, because 4 or 5, a couple of years later, they might have completely changed.
And that's like, you're raising such a beautiful point. I think the key is this. It's like a person who's thinking that way now, like you're watching this stream, you're saying to yourself, you know what, am I really marriage material? Do I really cut it? Okay, you know what? And you're honest with yourself saying, I don't think I am. The beautiful thing about that is that kind of person, if they are willing, is ready to prepare and be material, the good, like a good compliment to someone in the future. And that's the kind of focus that we need. We need to be addressing marriage in that manner. I'm going into marriage prepared. I'm going into marriage ready. I'm going into marriage with a focus on what I can bring and how I can help. Basically. So this is super important stuff, man.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Ecosmia says, if they don't tip, buy for other people, it may not be that they're selfish. Maybe they just economical and the budget is set. That's also true. I mean, we've been to restaurants, and I'm just like, I don't even think you deserve a tip, to be fair. The service was absolutely terrible. It's not that, I'm selfish. It's just that I just felt like the quality of service that was provided wasn't quality.
So she be economical, guys.
Ezekiel has to kind of be like, when we go out, he's like, this is tip money. Because if he just pulls it out, I'm like, what are you doing?
Let's go to the next question. So I think that's a good point, and it's really about observation. It's really about knowing them. Like I said earlier on, the more situations you are with them in, you'll know about this budget. You'll know about these kind of things. And I think it's really about conversations. It's really about just conversing all the more we can. Grace says, watching how someone treats waiters or people who serve you in public is important too. Absolutely. I think people overall, how are they with their mum? How are they with their dad?
That's right.
How are they with strangers? How are they with the beggar at the underground station? Do you understand? Don't touch me, move away. No. Like, you want to know how people operate with people. That's a great point. So it's like, I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that those interactions, and it's not just I want to be with you in all of these places like I was saying before. It's like you want to observe how they are in these situations with different people, with different so like it's like the waiter brings wrong food. Like, you don't want to play says when we're in the restaurant, because like she don't hear that. You know what I'm saying?
No, I do.
You do?
No.
Tell me. I'm listening. Tell me. Let's go. Let's go.
No, so
listen, today you guys are restaurant accountability, all right? Listen.
No, my thing is,
What's your thing, babe? Tell us.
My thing is, I don't like them stingy restaurants, innit?
No, I'm listening. Go on. Yeah, go on. That's his giggling.
You know, I'm straight up. Don't be taking me to one of them restaurants that's gonna put one little chicken on your plate and drizzle stuff around it and say like, here, no, I've come to eat it, so I want my food.
You think it's Sarah, you're gonna take her to buffet, fam. Don't take her to look, at the end of the day, it's about
oh my gosh.
It's about people interaction. So that was a great point, Grace. Thank you so much.
I'm big on customer service. Let's just keep it real, okay?
People interaction is important.
I'm big on customer service. Sorry.
Sarah's don't want to. She don't want accountability no more. So
I'm big on customer service.
We'll work that another time, guys. Ecosmo says, yes, at Grace, I'm watching how they treat their parent or the opposite sex is very telling also. There you go.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. Like, thank you, Ecosmos.
Even on that point though, because sometimes some people can be so nice to the person that they're with, but everyone else, it's like they're...
Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, basically. And sometimes some people might think, oh yeah, but they're so, they love me, they protect me, they're good to me. But with other people, they're not that nice. So how is that relationship going to look? What's that relationship going to look like in the long run?
And the question...
That's like traits of someone who's...
got some issue.
Yeah.
The question is this: why are they like that?
Right.
So it's like you're saying they're lovely to the person they're with, to their
they love the person,
but they're not nice to the waiter, or they're not nice to the taxi driver, or they're not. So, and the question is why? Why are you being like that? Why? And it's like, you want to get to this place where you can have that conversation. I know some people be running away, but it's like you want to understand because it's important. It's important because some people, like, again, like you were saying before, how are you willing to help? Are you willing to support them? And that's what it comes down to. Some people might just be like, oh, like my parents told me don't be nice to strangers or whatever. It might be that, and they've run with that for the last 50 years. It may be that, we don't know. So it's like, the more clarity we can get on those things, the more helpful it is for us to make a decision and not just be like, oh, I'm waiting for Mr. or Mrs. Charming.
Alrighty.
Is that Grace again? Grace says at Ecosmios! ! Alright.
Oh yeah. That's right. Right.
Yeah?
Yep.
Go.
Justelina, past hurts really need to be tackled before marriage. Not everyone recognises it's within themselves, but I think this is why counselling prior to marriage is positive. Thank you.
Oh wait, she continues.
Oh, okay.
You got it?
No.
Because you don't always see the negative traits within yourself. Most times it takes another person to bring it to your attention. Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Justelina. I think the key really here, Sarah made a point about this earlier on, yeah? So the key is really about the willingness to change. The willingness to grow. And I think if you're entering into a relationship with someone and they have some of these things we're talking about today, they're contentious, they're argumentative, they're proud, like real proud, like they've got issues. It's like, if they are willing for the sake of the relationship, and I don't just mean, look, pipe dream. I mean, like, you start on a journey to see the progression and you're seeing change. Not just, I'll change when we're married. Like, listen, stay away from my daughter, fam. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that ain't happening. I'm being real. I'm being real.
It's true.
So it's like, but if we begin to see some change, even if it's some kind of like, just some progressive change, I think that's important. So I think that's very key. We've said it, you can't always identify those challenges. We're biased to ourselves. We are biased to ourselves. We're biased to our family more time. Right. And it's and these are some of the problems. So that's a good point. Thank you so much, Justelina. Good comment.
Yeah, definitely.
Good to see you today as well. It's been a minute.
Yes.
Grace I says that Justelina, so true. I think just went into...
Okay. Osa, good evening. Says, I agree with you not tipping. Those expectations is almost like open robbery or embarrassing a person budget for going out. Yes. No. Okay. To be funny though, just to like be like fully frank. If not for you, to be fair, for you, like, I think if I was married to someone else, I'd be a completely different person, to be fair. Because I really feel like Ezekiel has really helped to sort of like calm me down.
Okay.
Yeah, I really feel like he's kind of helped to calm me down, because when, when we've found ourselves, if we've gone out and I found myself in a position where I want to start arguing with someone, if I was with someone else who was like, yeah, babes, like, tell him, like, I'll go for it. But you always kind of, like, don't embarrass my husband, innit? It's just one of them things. No, because like what I'm saying is, because sometimes having that argumentative nature is very easy to forget yourself and to forget where you are, if someone in a restaurant talks to you a certain way, or you feel like you go into a restaurant and you're not being treated the way other counterparts are being treated, you feel like it's your right. You have the right to complain. You have the right to point it out. You have the right to be, upfront about it. But I feel like you've kind of taught me there's a place and a time. Like Ezekiel, if something was to kind of happen, he would be like, babe, we can make a complaint. Like, we can email in. We don't have to let it be known there and then. Whereas some people just want to like let it out there and then. I even remember going out with a friend and just for coffee, just for me and her to chit chat and kind of catch up and stuff, and we went into this restaurant stroke cafe kind of bar kind of place, and the guy who was serving us, he was very abrupt and he was quite rude, and both me and my friend are quite feisty people. However, they were expecting us to kind of get fiery and snap up. But, just being, in a sense, shall I say, like, remember when I'm not with you, I kind of remember, okay, how would Ezekiel want me to tackle this situation? And sometimes it takes that, like, when, for those of us who can be, quite sharp, quite snappy, quite argumentative, ready to, have our say, is that, when you have a spouse who is constantly, who guides you, who leads, who can talk to you about, hun, when you're out, you can get a bit thingy. How about you handle it this way? Or how about you do things like help and teach? And that's what marriage is all about. So it's like, when I go out, if he's not there, I can be like, listen, and start going or whatever. Or I can say, you know what? How would my husband expect me to handle this situation right now? And it would be to be calm. What's your name? What's your number? As in, what's your, whatever it may be. We're emailing head office. You're going to hear about it. You can't, and and for them, sometimes that's even more, threatening in a sense, as opposed to just lashing out on them. You just now look stupid. Whereas when you handle a situation in a certain way, they kind of now know, okay, I'm blatantly going to be in trouble. And you didn't say anything to them. We didn't say anything to them. We kind of just handled it that way. But then at that point, I was kind of like, okay, if Ezekiel was here, how would I behave? And the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes, we feel like when we're not with our spouses, we can just be and do whatever we want, but we represent each other all the time.
Come on.
We represent each other all the time, and how I behave when he's not there, how he behaves when I'm not there, is also very, very important. And this is why I think it's really important for us to take interest in the traits that our spouses have, because that way we can help each other. We can really help each other. Like Ezekiel's very kind of like, you can be very giving and very, you can pour your heart out sometimes and be very willing to help. And sometimes I have to say to him, hun, you can't help everybody. You can't help everybody. You can't give your time to everybody.
Straight.
And for him, that's beneficial because he's going to recuperate a few hours back in that week, or he's not going to spend his time, doing certain things and he's able to do other things. But the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes, when we are in marriages and when we are married, being one way in the house, you should also be able to carry that out of the house. And it's just so important to know your partner's traits, because helping them through these journeys along the way is so key, and it helps to build we build each other up that way, and it's so much more sustainable. So
thank you so much.
Go off on one, but I just thought I'd share that, to be fair.
I appreciate it. It's deep, because if your goal in marriage is solely kind of introspective, you're looking at what I'm going to get, what I'm going to gain, it's a big issue. It's a big problem. When we go into marriage, it's like we become something more than we are, basically. And it's really about understanding that, the reality of what that means. It's like you're working with someone else to add a greater impact to the community, to your environment, than you could have on your own. And some people might disagree with that, but that's the reality of what it is. It's marriage is a testimony, okay? It tells of the goodness of God, of the richness of God, whether you like it or not. So we got a couple more comments. Let's quickly cut into this. Because it says, although the companionship is lovely, marriage is not for everyone. Some have that grace to stay alone.
True.
And that's the truth. I think that's the truth. That's a reality that we need to fully acknowledge as well. It's not everybody that can, do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Jocelyn says, yes, see them in different scenarios. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think it will help. It will help. It massively helps. It's one of those things that is super useful. I think we've kind of, I've belabored the point a little bit, but it's super useful in terms of really being able to understand the person you're married to, even at certain times, or the person that you're considering moving forward. Grace I says, I think the interview example is different, as you're putting your best foot forward and looking good because that's how you plan to show up for work. But showing the real you after marriage, like Grace, I'll be honest, I'll challenge you on that, because nobody is the way they are in that interview every single day at work. Like, don't get me wrong, some people are professional, like, and they are professionals, and they bring it on a regular. But we're talking about kind of like the cream on the top of like the employment world. It's like when you really look at life, and employers know this. Like, I remember we were doing some scheduling at work at a point in time, and we had a really good manager, and he was just like, look, this is how many hours we're supposed to work a day. He goes, no one's working all those hours. He goes, you're going to the bathroom, you're going out for lunch, you've got intermittent meetings, some people smoke, they're on smoking breaks. So he cut down I can't say it, but he cut down a significant amount of time from what was the daily budget and used that to kind of map forward, because he's being realistic.
That's right.
Do you know what I'm saying? He's being realistic, like in a kind of this, ideal kind of world. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, like, it's cool, but it's like, that's just my take. That's my take. We can talk about that later. Because it says, maybe that's how the person plans to be married and act, but their true colours override the wishful colours in the tough circumstances.
That's right.
And I think that's the truth, man. I think that's the truth. It's like, you see a person on day one. It's like, look, even just to go back to Grace's point, it's like, the way a person wakes up in the morning, two married folk, they go to bed, wake up in the morning, the way you saw that person the first day you ever met them, and the way they are on day 50 or day 100 of marriage, when you wake up and you look over, you roll over to the person next to you, listen, let me tell you something here. Like, for many people, there's no resemblance. There's no resemblance. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about.
That is so funny.
Because says, as lovely as they are to the person they're with, they'll soon join the group of people too. The niceness will wear off. And you see that, Ecosmos, thanks for that. Because I think that's a reality. It's like, you cannot hide what's in your heart.
That's right.
You cannot hide it.
It will come out.
Like, just the way we've been created, the way things are, there is this power that draws it out. It's like there's a compulsion for it to come out. You can look, even like spies, the best spies, they train them for years and years and years and years, yet there's still kind of traits and aspects of who they are that show through, that they can't hide. It's one of those things. So this is the real deal, man. This is the real deal. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time. I think we're done with the comments, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys today. It's been a blessing just to talk with you guys about this situation. Yeah. Hopefully this has blessed you. Hopefully it's been helpful.
Definitely.
Hopefully this has been something you can take away, share with your friends, your family, maybe even introduce and implement in your own relationship, your own marriage, to help you start to thrive, to help you build that authentic love that we know exists. And it's just there, right the corner, waiting for you guys.
Yeah, and remember, communication is so important. It's so important. And if you find that you are struggling to talk to your spouse on a one-to-one, just because of whatever your family situation may be, like we always say, accountability partners, get someone to come in, to sit down, to listen to both of you, because until people really start talking and really start opening up to each other, a lot of problems are going to sit inside of marriages, and they're going to hide themselves in those cracks. Like I always say, it's better to quickly get out some plaster and cover up those, and begin to heal those cracks, as opposed to just leave them to just get bigger and bigger, just because you don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable situation, or just because you don't want to let someone else see what might be going on in your marriage. If you cannot discuss it with the two of you, it's so important to let someone or another couple that you trust in to begin to really have these conversations. Like we always say, hard talk is so key. It's necessary. It is needed. And sometimes, you know, a lot of times as well, in marriages, people feel like, oh, we can handle this, we can deal with it. But, you know, sometimes a little bit of intervention from a third party can also be very, very helpful as well. So, yeah.
I'm Ezekiel.
And I'm Sarah.
We've been here today for another episode of Marriage Matters Live. Listen, guys,
yes,
it's been a joy, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you again real soon. Take care.
God bless.
Bye
Have
for now.
A great week.
Dance.